All right, guys, we are here today with a friend. Diane is joining us on the podcast. She is the current global brand director at one of your favorite French brands. We're not going to say it yet. Because we need you to stick around for the whole podcast. Thank you for joining us, Diane. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Okay, so we start every episode asking you, and I know you're not typically a full glam girl, but you got a little glammed for us today, and I appreciate you.
A little bit, yes.
What is on your face today?
I am wearing... Are we allowed to say what the French brand is that I'm wearing right now?
This is the reveal.
Are we keeping them on their toes?
This is the reveal.
This is the reveal. Being in the beauty for a while, and of course, I am wearing Violette FR. So my cheeks are a mix of Bisou Blush, Melanie, and Louise, a little trick that I actually learned from Violette herself.
Ooh.
And of course, my all-time favorite is the Bisou Balm in Batiste. Like, I was never very much a blush or a lip girl until I joined this company. And I, fell in love with all the products and the stories behind Violette. And of course, I got suckered into it. And now I'm always wearing Violette FR. Like, that is all I wear every day.
That look looks so good on you. So I'm very glad that you discovered it.
Thank you.
Of course.
It's very natural.
Very.
I'm not like a bold red lip girl like all the French girlies are there. And I'm very much the most basic beauty person ever. But skincare, I'm obsessed with. I'm all about the skincare.
Great to hear, because the next question is, if you were deceased, unfortunately, tomorrow, but you get to take one product gets to come to the afterlife.
Ooh.
What is it?
Oh my goodness. I feel like I'm going to betray Violette right now.
Oh gosh.
But I'm obsessed with Dew Skin's Instant Angel. Like, that is my go-to. And you're going to laugh. If I were ever to get stranded on an island, everyone, the questions everyone asks you, I'm always like, I'm going to bring moisturizer, because I cannot live with moisturizer. And they're always laughing at me. They're like, why are you not bringing a knife or something for survival? True beauty girl right there, or true PR girl, I guess, as well. But I'm like, I have to moisturize. Like, that's my thing.
Cannot get crusty and dry.
Can't get crusty and dry. I stand by Dew Skin's Instant Angel, which I think I actually have on my desk right now.
Oh, wow. She's fully stocked. Yes.
She's fully stocked. She does not go anywhere without me.
Love it. Amazing. Okay. Final question is, where are you finding like a source of inspiration and creativity right now? Where are you looking to?
Any source of inspiration, honestly, just being out in nature and just letting myself just sit there and pausing. I think that's really important. I think a lot of times we get suckered into the fast tracks of corporate or like building a brand, and there's never enough time to fulfill your work. And sometimes you just have to pause and really think like, okay, what's the bigger picture? What are we trying to achieve here? What are the community that we're trying to tap into? What do I want to fulfill in my life? And so I'm actually on PTO right now and just taking and enjoying this break of doing absolutely nothing and feeling that creative energy in me come back. And whether that's food, which is like a passion that I love, or it's my secret hobby of drawing and painting, though I'm not very good at it, but my dad's phenomenal. So I take inspiration from him. Or it's just like figuring out what that creative side hustle is that I'm looking for. And there are some ideas, but I don't want to say what. Okay. Just yet, because it's too soon to tell.
Keep them close.
Keep it close. Keep it close. But I think it's just pausing and reflecting, taking a walk. And I love that it's getting more warm outside.
It's the perfect time.
I get to,
Great.
So that's where I'm getting inspiration from, is just getting more in tune with myself, really, and like journaling again. I've been journaling about daily at this point, which is really great. I don't usually do it every day.
I love that.
But just looking inward.
I used to be so more disciplined on journaling, and I really fell off. And I keep telling myself get back to it, because you learn so much about yourself through journaling.
You do,
but I haven't gotten there yet. We'll see. There's a time and place for everything, and I see one time it's going to come back to me. I feel it. when I'm ready.
Yeah, I think it's something we have to do. And some people are not comfortable with it, and there's different ways to journal, but I just feel like it's helped me a lot and get clarity. So it's really great.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us, and let's dive into the episode. All right. So as you guys know, the secret is out. Diane has worked at Violette FR, one of, I think, every beauty creator's favorite. Every beauty lover has a product from them, I believe. And Diane has been so pivotal in helping that brand grow. So we are so excited to have her on the podcast today. But before we dive into your time at Violette, this was not your first job. And funny enough, you have not always been a beauty industry girly. Can you take us back to some of your history? Where else have you worked? What else has kind of like molded you to this position?
Yeah, so I got really lucky. First gig out of college, I ended up at the Calvin Klein headquarters in New York. And this is going to date me a really long time ago. That was in 2009. And it was when #MyCalvins was kicking off.
Huge.
It was purely like a celebrity seating. It was a very like peak CK moments where we were hosting all these amazing events, and we had really, really hot guest lists. I loved my job there. I got warped into the PR world, and no better way to join into it than be at Calvin Klein HQ. So I learned so much from that experience, and it was only a year that I was there, and it's my OCD-ness comes from Calvin Klein. Like literally everything is black and white. Yes. Like the full stop couldn't be like, everything had to be, pristine and perfectly done and presented. And that was what really got me into fashion and PR, and I just loved it. And I got really lucky. I think that was my first job, and I knew instantly that was something that I wanted to be in, was just to be in this PR and marketing space, to be in fashion, to be in beauty. And I think one of the big things I love the most is like just seeing your hard work on the spreadsheets of magazines. Like, not so many anymore now, but like, on the billboards, or like you see it online. And I think that's so rewarding to see that collective effort come together. And so definitely the start of my career was at Calvin Klein. And then I pivoted back to Asia, and I joined a lot of advertising agencies, multimedia agencies, and I knew instantly I was not an agency girl. Like, I'm such a brand loyalist at heart. I was like dying to get out of advertising. So I begged to get back into Calvin Klein, and that's where persistence really takes off. And I only had contacts in the New York office, and I was in Hong Kong at the time. And so I had to try to get an in the regional office. And I did end up, meeting my boss that time for an interview, and I bugged her for every 2 weeks because I wanted the job so badly. Every 2 weeks. She was like stringing me along for a good month or two. And then finally she's like, all right, you know what? Your persistence is what's getting you in the door.
And you're like, I'll take it.
I was like, okay, great. So that was really great. I got back into CK, and that was a brand new role too, because I wasn't in headquarters. I was in a regional role, and you have 11, maybe 13 countries under you. Wow. And then you're like the middleman between the local offices, and then convincing HQ that, what they're pitching is best for their market. Yeah. So I definitely flexed my negotiation skills there. And then I followed my boss to Ash, which is where I saw you and met you. And I was at Ash for not too long. I think I was there for about a year, but Ash was also like a whole different ball game because they're run by distributors, and there's no such thing as DTC at Ash at the time. I'm not sure if they've evolved since then. And so
I don't even know if there's still a brand today. Is it still a brand today?
I don't know.
Ash Footwear is what we're talking about. Ash Footwear.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if they're still around, but it was just interesting to work with people that are like 20 to 30 years older than you and convincing them like, this is the new global direction. But it was very rewarding at the same time. And I got to meet you. And then from there, where did I go? I can't even remember. Oh, I did like, it was like tech. It was like a big hype then. Everyone wanted to go into tech. So I was like, I want to go into tech too. And so the best way to do it was to go into influencer marketing on the tech side. And so it's funny. I'm not going to name the brand so much because they're no longer in the US. But the tech itself is great if you are a user, but from the back end, there's a lot of hands, like there's a lot of human bodies behind it, really moving the needle. So that was just really interesting to see. And then I went back actually into agency. But it was a marketing agency versus an advertising agency. And what I loved about that, a couple of years that I was at that agency was we worked more on strategic projects. So really like brand launches, rebranding for big, luxury brands. And then that's how I got into beauty because we had clients like Supergoop and Revlon and, who else did we have? We had Beauty Blender. And so that was my first real experience of beauty. And that's when Violette FR, the opportunity came and I couldn't resist because Violette's so charming. And I'm like, okay, let's go. I love this idea.
Such a good transition. And you were there towards the very beginning. So how old was Violette at that time in terms of a brand? 1 year or not even?
Not even. I joined 2 months after the brand launched. Wow. And so it was pretty nuts. And I joke with Violette all the time. Like, you didn't throw me into like a forest with wolves. You threw me into like the deep, dark ocean with like great white sharks circling. Like, it was survival at that point because I've never been in a startup that new and there was so much to do. And, granted we had, a PR agency, but we had a really small team. And when I joined, she's like, we're about to launch a pop-up. We're about to launch a product. We've done nothing. I need you now. And I was like, okay, let's go. Let's run with it. I
remember I showed up at that pop-up and it was a success. There was a line. It was in Soho. Gosh. It was so cute. It was so well branded. It was very busy. It was great.
So fun. It was the first day too that New York decided no more masks. And so we're like, oh, this is great. We were over capacity. We didn't care because it was an amazing event. And that was our brand launch event basically. And so it was so fun. And it's just also a great preview for me as well, because I didn't know Violette as well back then. And we had this event my first month at VFR, and I really got to see the community that she pulled together and she's built for the past decades that she's been around. Incredible. And it's just really great to see that support system for her as well.
Amazing. Well, what a good journey. And now could you kind of guide the audience a little bit on what some of your responsibilities are at Violette? I'm sure it's shifted over the years as the company has grown, but kind of just give the overview for people who aren't as used to the brand side of things as to what you're responsible for.
I would say, just to give a little bit more too for anyone that wants to join a startup, is that startups are very challenging and they'll really push you to your limits in the most rewarding way possible. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get into a startup. And just coming from bigger companies like Calvin Klein and going into Violette FR, you wear so many hats. And that's what I love about it, is because it's basically like boot camp for building a business. And there are so many different things about a business that I didn't really know about. And I learned just by being part of the team and taking things on as they come. And so for instance, it's like operations and product development. That's not something that a PR marketing person at my junior level at other companies like was familiar with.
Sure.
And just being a little bit more hands-on on that was really great. And so when I joined VFR, I had multiple roles. I was the creative project manager, but also the brand director. And so under that brand director, I have content, social media, PR, and influencers all under my realm. But the trick there is there was no team under me. And so not only was I supposed to think and really help Violette be her right-hand man and really expand the awareness of the brand and really get the name out there and like bring that community together as well as strengthen it when we do have them. I also was executing everything.
Yeah.
And so that was a challenge of its own. But we have an amazing team now that's really just rolling and doing amazing things as well.
Wow. That's some great behind the scenes for people. I think a lot of people look at a brand like Violette FR, especially creators, and they probably think like, oh, it's such a huge team and all of this. And like, even now, you do have a team, but it's still not huge in comparison to so many other brands, Estee Lauder or, like large companies. So just because a brand is popular doesn't mean that number one, they have huge budgets, and number two, they have big teams. So when you don't get that response from, people like Diane, who doesn't get back to everybody within 2 hours, don't start to freak out and be like, the brand doesn't like me anymore. There's so much going on.
No, it's so true. I have to get better at it, but I'm so apologetic. Like, even if I'm not responsive after a 2-day email, I'm just like, I'm so sorry. Like, it's been chaotic, but I swear to God, like, I'm a 0 email kind of girl. Like, that's the Calvin Klein girl in me. And I will definitely get back. It's just prioritizing.
Absolutely. So good. So because we have, of course, like a lot of beauty industry people and beauty creators specifically, can you talk a little bit about like what's the evolution of a brand that's founded by a creative and a creator, right? She kind of straddles that line. What does their influencer marketing creator kind of journey look like? How do they sort of let go of the reins and let other people interpret the makeup?
So for us, at least, and this is something I admire so much about V, is when it comes to influencer marketing, we call it people of influence. And that's when we really want to tap into talents that are muses and influencers in their own world. And so we don't only just want like beauty content creators that just make content. We want those that like have impact in terms of their own personal lives. And we all do. Like, we're all muses, and that's what's beautiful in that way. And so my only advice really is to be your most authentic self, because the kind of talents that we're looking for are the lawyers and the moms and, the doctors, the nurses, like whoever it is that, have a moment, even if it's 5 days in their life, to really just look at themselves in the mirror and just be like, I want to look this way today, whether it's I want to feel creative or I want to feel bold and I want to stand out and I'm going to just wear a glittery eye because that's how I feel. Like, that's the message that we're trying to really put out there, is just to be yourself. Go with your feelings. Don't follow the trends, because sometimes the trends don't make sense to you. And so that's really what Violette and the brand is trying to do, is just reframe that relationship with beauty, because I think beauty in a lot of ways can be super toxic. With the excessive contouring and the fake eyelashes. And then when you remove the makeup, you're like, this isn't me. And that's actually been a fear of mine my entire life. I remember even as a teenager, I wouldn't want to wear like really thick makeup because I would be so scared that whoever I was dating or all my friends, like I wipe away my face, they're going to be like, you look so different and you look better with makeup. Like, that is my fear. That sounds really insecure, but like being confident in who you are and how you look without makeup is equally, if not more important than you wearing makeup. And so that's Violette's message as well. But that's also been a personal goal of mine, is to make sure I look good without makeup.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Wonderful. And so when you've been on this journey, of course, like since the beginning to now, the brand has launched so many new products. You're in skincare and beauty, and there's like a little bit of fragrance, right? As well. And
Yeah.
so how have you navigated those different product categories? Because most people are kind of staying in their own lane for the most part, especially early on. How did you look at those differently?
I can't take credit for that. That would be like
Mm-hmm.
my president and SVP of
Yeah, sure.
marketing and Violette, of
Uh-huh.
course. But we've found, for one, we have two hero products, and one of them I'm wearing right now, which is the Bisou Balm,
Mm-hmm.
which is a lip is always very easy to tap into a new brand, and everyone loves a good
Sure.
lippy.
Yeah.
And then our second hero product is our Boom Boom Milk, which is our skincare product that does not get enough love and credit as it
It's so
should.
good.
It's such
It's
an
so good.
innovative, amazing product. My
Mm-hmm.
skin is a reflection of that as well. But it is a challenge. I will say that. And so
Yeah.
I have to give incredible thanks to the team, like senior leadership, for
Mm-hmm.
really putting together like a marketing calendar of like where we're going to be re-promoting certain hero SKUs, then tying it into our launches itself. And so
Yeah.
each launch that we do has a beautiful story behind it. And I think Violette's power of storytelling is very, very engaging and enchanting. Like if you guys ever have a chance to be in a room with her, you guys will just be in like a trance. Like you'll fall in love with her, basically. There was like, I was like editing one of her videos, and she was wearing like a Patrick Ta and Tower 28 mascara. And I'm like, I just looked at her in a meeting and I'm like, I'm sold. I'm about to go to Sephora and buy these products. Like
buying it all.
buying it all. But every launch and every product that we do, very much is a big launch. Even if it's a shade extension, we treat it as truly like its own individual big launch. And a lot of our launches are very much online and digital versus outside on, out of office, et cetera. But to navigate and balance, it's difficult, but we try. That's all I can say. I don't know if they're probably going to kill me for saying this, but like it's a challenge. And but at the same time, it's like when you have a really good team and you're thinking ahead and you're not being reactive, and like seasonally what the community, what the customers are looking for, you're able to really focus on like what products we want to push during that time. And it doesn't have to be just one like makeup. It can be a set. Like we just launched the Liz Summer set, and because it's summer's approaching, so we're putting together Bomb Shine and blush and a lip, so it's really seasonality that we're looking at. And of course, like what consumers are looking for during a specific time to really just try to maximize and tap into it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's fine to admit that some things are more difficult than others, but you do have a lot of great things on your side at this brand. As a fellow marketer, I look at this brand and like with that strong point of view and that strong storytelling, you are able to tie all these products together, even though they are from different categories, which can be difficult. Like so many brands don't have a strong perspective. And I feel like that can be such a detriment when you're going to market. Like without storytelling, without that perspective, you're sort of like, what am I even saying about this? Like, who cares?
Yeah. I mean, Viola also just has a really strong vision of how she wants her brand to be. And she doesn't want the brand to be treated as like a traditional beauty brand. She sees it more as like a lifestyle. But I feel like I shouldn't speak too much on behalf of Viola.
I'm sure. True.
She's a powerhouse on her own. So I'm an extension of her.
Yeah, for sure. So with a brand like Violette, where you have so much support across various creators, when you go to cast for a campaign, whether that's big budget or little budget, are you finding that the strategy is more we pull from people who've organically supported? Is it more, we have people on the radar that we really want? How do you go about looking for the talent that is going to represent the brand?
So for influencer marketing, the way that I do it is I try to make sure it's a 60-40 split every
Okay.
time we approach talents, if it's for gifting or paid. So for gifting, for instance, like you really still want to build that relationship with
Yeah.
that ambassador program that you have. So um, we'll have like a makeup list and we'll have a skincare list. And then for the makeup, for instance, it's like we're always launching new color shades or new products. And so for me, it's always important, like the makeup artists that we have and that we've grown, making sure that every launch, the ones that we already have a relationship with, they're getting that in their hands too, because we want to make sure they're being taken care of as well, but also making sure we're expanding our community so that more and more individuals and talents are aware of the brand and the amazing products that we have. And so there's a 60-40 split where I'm making sure that 40% are new. And then hopefully moving forward, it'll be like a 50-50. But for now, because we have such a strong, amazing existing base, our main focus really now is to expand and tap into new talents. And so for skincare, for instance, the Dream Skin Duo that we just re-hit recently with our Boom Milk and Sailor Cream, I made sure it was like 80% new customers or new talents, I should say, because I want the moms,
new audiences,
and the new audiences to know like this is their product and it's amazing and it works wonders. And so that's really how we approach it from an influencer marketing lens.
Nice. And when you get incomings, I'm sure you get lots of incomings. Walk us through the good, bad, and ugly. Tell us honestly, because this is something that people talk about a lot. Have you ever had an incoming that you were like, yes, right away?
Yeah, I mean,
okay, good.
There's a few. I think there's a few. There's definitely a lot, and I think it's the way that they approach, which I think is really, really a key into getting me into it. So very recently, there was this young collaborator, and it just reminded me of our old days. Like we're millennials trying to get into a job. She sent us a handwritten card.
Oh my
just
goodness.
saying how much she loved the brand. And I could not resist. I'm like, this is so sweet. And she didn't hound us for an email and like, being like, I want products and following up religiously. She was very patient, and we sent her like a goodie bag because I was just like, that's the sweetest thing ever.
Wow. Yeah.
But when I look at talents that, there's a few ways that the incomings are coming through, which are through ShopMy, because we're on ShopMy.
Sure.
Or via email. And so with ShopMy, what I love about it, and for all the creators out there, huge shout out. I think you guys should all get onto ShopMy because
I agree,
from a brand
100%.
perspective, it is so seamless, and there's the data for us to see everything, and it just makes life so much easier. And so shout out to ShopMy for making my life easier. But for ShopMy, when the talents come through, and it's a global platform, so I get, people from Italy or people from Canada or people from the US. And so my focus is very much the US Canada business. And so I'll look at, the incomings from there. I'll check their profiles. I'll look mostly at their order volume. So that's the first thing I'm looking at. Once I notice that their order volume is either mid or top tier, I'll go into their profile and I'll see like the type of content they're creating and seeing whether it's on brand or whether we want to fulfill like a commercial need on our side. And so when I say on brand, it's like, of course, it's the beautiful, effortless French vibe. But then when it's commercial, it's like, okay, we need to push this product. Like, let's say the Bisou Balm I'm wearing right now, and I can see, when she's promoting makeup and specifically a lip, she's getting the type of engagement that the brand likes. And from there, I'll be like, okay, like, I would love to send you some products. This is, we're currently promoting Bisou Balm. It's our and I'll give them a little bit of detail on what the product is and send them a link to. And if they like it, we'll send it to them. I think it works both ways, right?
Sure.
And then, once we see the product on them, they love it. We keep that conversation going. We're like, okay, is there any other products that you would love to try? Like, here's a full wish list. Let's see what we can support you with. But it's very strategic on the back end.
Of course.
Versus just looking at, whether they fit the brand or not.
Very interesting. And I think that this happens a lot. Number one, that you have to look at so many multiple touch points. And influencer marketing, I would say, from a brand, I think from all perspectives, people don't think it's that detailed, but it's so much. And trust me, because I've been doing it for such a long time, people always ask me, what platforms do you use? What do you do to aggregate this? I'm like, nothing. There is nothing that can do it better than by doing it by hand. And you just described it. Like, you go to this, you're seeing analytics, you go to this other thing, you're seeing creative. Like, no program will ever replicate what an actual good marketer or influencer marketer can do, because you have to know so many different variables.
Yeah. And also, I don't think there's ever really, my colleagues and peers, I'm sure, might think otherwise, but I don't think there's a set formula for success on influencer marketing unless you have the budget and the volume to support it, to make it go viral. Because the successes that I've seen on the agency side when I was at this marketing agency, they had budget to tap into big talents, but the big talent wasn't enough. Like, they put paid, like millions of dollars of paid on it. And then they did an additional sponsorship or partnership with TikTok to really blast it and make it go viral. And so it's not a singular thing. I think in order for influencer marketing to work, you need your other levers to work as well, right? Like, your social has to match, your PR has to match, your paid marketing has to match, like all that has to happen at the same time for maximum impact, or else it's just going to go, it's going to flop.
I know.
But
so
you're
every
so
time
right.
you see a product going viral, or I see this everywhere right now, it's like the Urban Decay Foundation, like you're not just accidentally seeing it everywhere. Like, it took a team so many months of coordination and strategy
and trial and error. It's our best strategy is gifting, figuring out who's the one that's really moving the needle. And from there, maximizing. You have to take action immediately. And so once that happens, you're talking to the talent. You're like, hey, can we do a post? Hey, can we do this? Can we do that? We're riding that trend because everyone is talking about whatever the product or the video it is that they made go viral. So that has been, I guess, the secret recipe for now. But again, it's like finding that talent, finding who it is that's going to make it go viral will be great.
Not easy.
It's not easy. I mean, there's so many great beauty talents out there, and you pay and you partner with them, but then it flops because it's like, oh, okay, just spent 10 to 20K and it didn't move the needle as well as you wanted to. And so I do think there is a power in volume as well. And so that's where the micro and nano influencers really come into play too, because they're going to have such an expressive and genuine reaction to your product because there's a genuine love there. And when you're doing that in volumes, it's going to circulate. It's going to have its own moment. It might not have an impact of like Hailey Bieber, launching a new shade, but it's going to have more of an impact than like spending absorbent amount for like 3 or 4 talents, and you're just not going to get that level of impact that you want.
Absolutely. It's a numbers game, 100%.
It's a numbers game. But I love what you were saying. No, I love what you're saying though, because it's like, there's no one platform. There's one platform. There's a spreadsheet. There's another platform. You're talking to the talents, agents. You're talking to the talents directly. Then you're figuring out the game plan. It's a lot. It's a lot of hand holding too. Like, you can't just go off and like do your own thing and then come back to influencer marketing. And because for me too, it's like, let's say, because I manage so many things, if I don't touch influencer marketing for like 5 days, let's say, because I'm focusing on other areas of the business, you see that organic reach coming down in our platform. So you constantly have to have people talking about your product every single day or your brand, or else the algorithm's not going to reward you either. And so it's a very hands-on role. And so for you to say earlier on that influencer marketing, people have said it's not a lot of work. It is so much work.
It's so much work. And
I feel like it's more work.
I know.
Yeah, it's more work than PR, in my opinion.
100%. It's definitely more work than PR, especially today, because there's way less editors and less outlets and less everything else, which is why so many PR people are now also do like some influencers, some events, some everything else. So. PR is hard in its own way.
I know.
Amazing. So what do you think in the last, let's say, year, or even just in the last 5 months, since we're in early May, what do you think that was something that you did with the brand that was surprising? That you're like, oh, I didn't think that this would have so much impact. Is it something with creators? Is it something with paid or TikTok or just content in general?
We've had really quiet couple of months just because there's not a lot of newness in our pipeline for me to really share.
What about last year?
Gosh,
or just generally over the years? You're like, what did I even do last year?
I mean, last year we did like a launch every 2 weeks, which was nuts.
Crazy.
I would say, you know what? This is a testament to Violette, is when we launched Zoo Paint in Dew Blue, which is her signature blue. And the strategy behind her launching this I respected so much. And so we're a 3-year brand and she's known for her blues, but before she could launch a signature vibrant, like Yves Klein blue, she launched 2 other blues that were a little safer, I would say, for people to really be accustomed to wearing a color like a blue on their eyeliner or on their eye for any day. But just to see the amount of people that not only we gifted, but we collaborated with, and then we did the out of home, we did the what's it called?
Billboard?
Like wall post? No, not a billboard. Oh my God, wild posting.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So we had that. Like everything came together, and the love and impact of that made it one of our best-selling colors to date. And so I think it's really just going back and thinking about, wow, that really worked, is because everything came together. And
at the same time,
and it was
it's a good product.
It's an amazing product, and it stood out. And it's like the storytelling behind it, the content behind it, the talents and her community already like obsessed with the color, like building up to it. And so I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier, which is that success doesn't happen overnight. It is literally like the weeks, the months, the years, the planning behind it that led up to that moment, and the trial and errors in between to really get to something like that. And it was great. We were everywhere and I loved it. And that's why I love my job.
You're like, look, we're popular. It is the best feeling to know that you're out in the world and other people are experiencing something that you have been planning for months and that you really labored over. And then there it is, like other people are being impacted by it. It's so interesting. It's a great part about marketing.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. Well, I always wrap up with a question about advice, and ideally advice for creators, but for really anyone who sees themselves as part of, the beauty marketing wheelhouse that we're in here, creators or, junior marketers that want to move forward in their career. What's some advice that you think is helpful for people?
I think for creators, My only advice really is to not get so sucked up into being a megastar. I think if you stay true to who you are and your craft, and you're really focusing predominantly on that community that you're building on a day to day, staying in
Mm-hmm.
tune with them, speaking to them, listening to them, I think that is the strongest form of connection that you can build. And I think you will be rewarded of that like decades to come, like,
Yeah.
or years to
Mm-hmm.
come. I don't know if you're going to be a
Mm-hmm.
creator for decades to come, but for years to come.
At least the next 5 years.
At least the next 5 years. And I only say this too as a consumer, and also just
Sure.
building a brand with Viola and the team. Like, she's so cognizant of making sure our community is being taken care of. And that's something that I learned from her. And it's just making sure that creators, and Violette's not a creator, she's a makeup artist and a brand owner and creative director and all of that, but she's built a really strong community, and it's really because she stayed true to who she was. And bringing in all the elements that she loves, like art and her love for nature and fashion and of course beauty. And so I do think for creators, it's just staying true to who you are. And there's a reason, and you have to remember there's a reason why people are following you. And once it becomes too commercial, I would say, is when I stop following certain talents, because I'm just like, oh, this is just an ad. This is an ad. Like, I just want your honest opinions. I want you to be raw and authentic. And I think that is just the only advice that I have. And I know it's probably not new news, but it's really the most solid advice.
It's okay. We have to retell people all the time the same thing. So
for junior marketers, my advice is to hang in there. Like, I only say this because I'm 15 years into the industry, and you know, it's not necessarily about paying your dues. I think it's really just listen and like be aware of everything around you. I think that was something about me, was I was so hungry to get to the next level and get there, that like I was very much like my ears were open to all the conversations that were happening, because I wanted to know how a business was run. And so for me, that was like, okay, like, I didn't want to stay so much in my lane of, let's say at Calvin Klein. I just didn't want to only stay at my lane in PR. And I was pretty junior back then. I wanted to understand like how all the markets came together. I wanted to understand how all the distributors came together. I wanted to understand how PR impacted marketing, how PR impacted demand plans, et cetera. So I think for me, it's just like you hang in there and, you know, really listen and open your ears and try to see your role beyond what the task at hand is, and really understand big picture, like how your role impacts the business, how your team impacts the business. I think that's my biggest advice to move ahead. And my second advice, and you're going to laugh, is when you have a problem, come with solutions. That's something that I was told too. Like, don't come just with a problem. Like, you have to come with a solution. Like, even if the solution's wrong, your manager will always appreciate it. So come with the solution.
Absolutely. I love it. That's so good. Think it through first. And that works for anybody. That works for anybody, creator or otherwise. Like, please come with a solution, not just the problems. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Diane. I really appreciate it. And I know people are going to be so interested to hear kind of this behind the scenes journey of what it takes. So thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me. I hope it was insightful.
Absolutely.
Right.
All right. We'll catch you guys next time. Bye.